Now, a technique that, we use a lot with Jackson, and we created it on our team, was sometimes we don't realize that the sensory overload is us, right? So what's happening is maybe our child is having what you're perceiving as a meltdown. However, the world is just too much going on. It's just too sensory overloading to them, and yet you're in their face, right? You're like, oh, what can I do? Can I help you? Well, why are you doing this? Stand up, whatever you end up saying to your child. I would perhaps think about me as a sensory overload, and I was joking. I say, back away from the child, back away from the child. And when you back away from the child, you still want to have eye contact with that child or be at an eye contact level. Maybe I get down on my knees versus having the child look up, right? But I still back away. I can still be animated without being loud, and I can still be happy without being loud. And so we call it the 3 S's. You want to slowly back away, you want to still be silly, and you want to be quiet. So I can still be really silly and really quiet at the same time. I could say, oh my goodness, Johnny, that is so great you're looking at me, and I don't know what you want to say because maybe the child can't talk, but I'm really loving you and I want to be there for you. So if you could just try to use our nice words. I'm going to back away though, and I am right here when you're ready. Sometimes by doing that, even a nonverbal child will completely kind of calm down. And then every time the child looks at me, I might smile and go, and give them kind of that warm kind of smile and love right back, right? Part of that technique we did with my son, because we did the Sunrise program, and then we really took that and said, okay, let's take what we learned at the Sunrise program from the Autism Treatment Center of America, and let's kind of create this within our team. And it was really easy for us to remember the 3 S's. Again, slow, silly, and shh. And a lot of kids, that's all it takes. And again, it really helps us with Jackson. I've heard feedback from many others, helps a lot of other families as well. Something to try. Another thing is how food affects our sensory, right? Diet, we talked about this in Module 1. What we put in our bodies has a direct effect on how we act, feel, and behave, right? Signs of digestion issues are bloating, constipation, diarrhea, gas. Think about that. We feed our child breakfast, and let's say you feed your child, a sugary breakfast, right? Even on a gluten-free, casein-free diet, you could still feed them stuff with sugar in it. And, my son, I don't give sugar, but I know a lot of others do. Well, think about this. You give them a sugary cereal, they go to school, and they're super hyper. What happens when that kind of wears off? They're going to have a crash, right? Boom. Well, now they don't feel good. Maybe their stomach hurts. Maybe they have a headache. Maybe, there's other issues going on. Maybe they have yeast issues. It's so important to look at the brain-gut connection and how that's affecting our sensory. Some kids, perhaps are having issues with toe walking, right? And so when we're thinking about this is, you are what you eat. Well, really, you are what you digest. And so often we're not looking at the food and the digestion. We're so focused on, behavioral treatments, different therapies. The therapies are supposed to do all the work. But I really believe it's this multi-prong approach. And we really need to look at all the prongs. And diet is definitely one of them. Some kids that toe walk, it's actually a sign of constipation. Not always, but it can be. And so it's important for us to really look at that because, our kids sometimes can't verbalize to us how they're feeling, what they're thinking, and yet they're not feeling good inside. So again, definitely look at the food the foods that they're eating. One thing we talked about in Module 1 was doing a food journal. Definitely recommend this. What they're eating, I want you to write it down, and then basically everything they're eating, write that down, and then write down their behaviors, any signs you see in mood changes, hyperactivity, if they become tired, aggressive, any of the above, If they start getting signs of red cheeks or dark circles, red ears, if they're having issues with stools, maybe they're having food particles in their stool. Again, we talked all about this in Module 1. Please go back and watch that because it definitely gives you a lot of different tools. Now, this lecture was really great because we wanted to give you ideas what you could do at home. But you might be thinking, oh my gosh, what do I do from now? Moving forward, what do I do right now? One, I definitely recommend finding an OT that has knowledge in sensory integration. Again, ask your OT, how long have you been doing this? When's the last time you took a sensory integration workshop? Who were you trained by? Do your homework. We do so much homework for other things when we're just trying to hire, a handyman in our house. This is so important for us to do the same when we're trying to find a therapist for our child. Another thing is to look into other members of the team. Maybe that's your chiropractor. Chiropractic, by the way, has done so much help with my son. And I want you to think about what a chiropractor does, right? Really helps your body become aligned. It helps the fluid in the spine kind of run the way it needs to be running. It helps the muscles kind of align. A lot of times our child can't tell us how their body's feeling, and yet their body isn't feeling balanced. Chiropractors can really help with that. Love our chiropractor for my son, and definitely something to look into. Again, I said speech language pathologist, physical therapist. Again, all of these members are so important for our team. If one member doesn't agree with another member and doesn't believe with your philosophy at the foundation of whatever that is for your child, I'd get rid of that member and make sure that all of my team was synergistically working together. And then, for example, let's say I had a behavioral specialist. Well, if I'm working with a dietitian and my child's supposed to be on gluten-free, casein-free diet, my behavioral therapist is wanting to give them a piece of candy every single time, and perhaps it has gluten in it or casein, and every time that child, they think that's so important. That's probably somebody I probably wouldn't have on my team if they don't start to kind of conform to what the rest of us are believing. Super important. The other thing is make sure you're working with team members that really believe in your child. I can't tell you how many people I talk to that will tell me the therapist told me my child will never get better. Then what the heck is the point of working with that therapist, honestly? You want to work with doctors and therapists and whoever's on your team. Surround yourself with people that believe in your child and they believe your child will improve. This is hugely important. Definitely look into some of the programs that we talked about in the last meeting and incorporate some of the tips and tools we talked about in today's lecture. And again, you've heard me say this in this lecture, and if you watched the last one, remember to see it through your child's eyes. They are trying to do the best they know how to do. And again, to remember to be the calm in your child's storm. Now, many of you want to know how to stay connected with us. We have great resources for you. We have this YouTube channel. We have a radio show every other Monday on Autism 1, Facebook page, Twitter page, blog page, website. We try to give all the resources we can that we really believe in, and definitely just stay connected. Check it out. If you have questions or you want us to learn something for you, contact us. We will do our best to do that. I wanted to end with kind of like a final thought, a quote that we found. And I think it's a really helpful way to think about things. Okay, it says, there are two ways of meeting difficulties. You alter the difficulties, or you alter the way you meet them. I think that's important to think about when we're thinking about our children, because our children are experiencing these difficulties all the time. These are challenges for them. So when we look at these, it's about how we address it, how we believe how our child's doing, what we believe our child can do. And instead of deciding what our children can't do, let's really believe that our children can do anything and everything. Just like when you were a little kid, when somebody asked you what you wanted to be when you grew up, nobody gave you an idea that you couldn't be a fireman, you couldn't be a doctor, you couldn't be a police officer or a teacher or an astronaut. You were allowed to dream and be whomever you wanted to be. The one thing I want for our kiddos is I want them to have the best childhood they possibly can. And one way we can do that is to never stop believing in them. I will never stop believing in my son. I will always believe that we're going to continue to reach for the stars, and I will never stop believing in our kiddos. So I'm so excited you guys join me for this module. We have one more module to do, and again, just remember that progress for one of our kids provides hope for all. Thanks, guys. Until next time. Bye.